What's up, everyone? I thought I'd make a YouTube video on something about madness and spirituality, or insanity and spirituality. Um, I've been kind of putting this video off for various reasons, but I just thought, hey, why not talk about my experience with it? Well, just to start off, I've been in the mental institution like twice, okay? And all of it is attributed to spiritual experiences that I had. The first time was when I had lived in Lawrence, and I talk about my near death experience in one of my other videos, but it had to do with that because after my near death experience, I didn't feel like I was the same person. Something about me had changed dramatically. Not only physically, because I had lost a lot of weight and everything else, but there was something there that was different about me that I couldn't pinpoint. I didn't feel like who I was. Like who I was somewhere else, and something else had taken over my body. So, after that experience had happened, I moved back to Salina, Kansas with my parents, and my mom, she kept, during the time that I had moved in, she said, "You are going through self loss." She kept saying, "You don't know yourself anymore. You're going through self loss." And then they sent me to a therapist, and I had like a couple of therapy visits with this psychotherapist, and by the second month of our visits, he was like, "You need to go to this place called Menninger's." It was Menninger's Psychiatric Facility in Topeka, Kansas. Now this place was huge, and I just once I got there, there were a lot of the people there were like geniuses, but they were insane geniuses. And I'm not making this up because these people were well accomplished individuals. I mean, they had like uh, they worked in musical careers, like major musical careers. Some had like done art, and they were like artists who had exhibited in London, England, and you know these people weren't your run of the mill cuckoos. They had certain skills and talents that were just beyond normal for someone that was crazy. They put me in a place called Hope Unit, and like I thought, what a weird name for a place, Hope Unit. But these people were well accomplished, and they were fairly young, like within my age range, and a little old. Some of them were older, but many of these people had careers. They've accomplished a lot in their life, so they did a lot of things that were beyond normal. Well, every day we would go and see a physician or a psychiatrist or a doctor, and uh, they they diagnosed me with schizophrenia, and I was just like, because I wasn't a danger to myself, and I wasn't a danger to anyone else. I didn't have psycho thoughts like that, but I was telling them I was seeing things, like I was seeing things beyond reality, like I was communicating with spirits and like ghosts, and that I could tell if somebody was possibly going to kill themselves, So like I was having like these these psychic visions or something like that, and the doctors would ask me questions about them, and I guess they diagnosed me with schizophrenia, and then they diagnosed me with depression disorder and bipolar, but I'll get into that a little bit more. But the main thing was schizophrenia because I told them stuff like, my soul wasn't inside my body, that something had possessed me, that I was someone new. Like, this was not the same me in my body, that my soul was somewhere else. And they diagnosed me with schizophrenia. They did all these IQ tests on me, and they said I had above average normal IQ, and that I really didn't understand why I was there. First off, because I was having these weird spiritual like experiences, like that weren't there were normal. I don't know if they were, but they were likened to like demonic possession or uh, you know Christian kind of mysticism, like things, like possession by deities. So basically, my mother was saying I was going through self loss. I'll get to that. So they let me out, and after a month of being with a lot of these people were quite smart that I was with, like I said. So they had like weird things though about them, like they had these real psychiatric disorders, but the doctors could not really pinpoint what was wrong with me. So they just said, you're diagnosed with schizophrenia. But I would tell them, like predictions and stuff, and how I wasn't who I was in my body, and that something had possessed my body. And I had a flat, I was catatonic at the time, so, which meant I had like, my visage was just dead, basically. Like I was a walking corpse, basically, because I had stopped eating during the possession. Whatever took over my body, I had stopped eating. I started to see visions and all this stuff. So, anyways, they let me out, and I was fine. Like, I guess I was fine because I only stayed a month. Some people had stayed like years, but I was only in this facility for a month. Um, but I went about my normal life, for many years, and I got jobs, and I went to school and graduated and everything like that after this episode in 1999. But I was seeing psychiatrists and psychologists throughout the time, and I'm still seeing them. But but the weird thing is like uh, they diagnosed me with every fucking like psychiatric problem there is. Every time I see them, there's like a new one. They're always coming up with a new psychiatric problem for me. I'm just like, I must be a fucking basket case. Like, I got schizophrenia, depression, bipolar, borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder. And it just kept compounding. They were just like putting label after label after label. And I was just like, this is getting crazy. And the whole time my mom's telling me, you're going through self loss. Okay. So, I and then comes about 2013, and I become physically ill again. Like my body starts shutting down and everything, and I'm getting physically ill, and I'm admitted into the hospital. And so I go in for a psychiatric evaluation, and they put me in a place at a regional hospital called the Behavioral Health Unit. Now, this ain't a fancy place, you know. This one's kind of like the run of the mill. Like, if people are having psychiatric problems, they come to this for a while and a week, and then they assess you and everything, and determine whether you need to stay longer or you need to be transferred to a bigger facility. So I was in this facility for a week, and I kept telling them, I was like, there, there's like nothing really wrong with me, but I'm seeing ghosts and I'm predicting people's deaths. And but I was physically really sick because I had just tested positive for HIV, and my body was and I was starting just to take the medication regimen, and my body was trying to build itself up. So I'm in this facility, the second one at Salina Regional, the Behavioral Health Unit, and I meet some people, and they're like normal people with some psychiatric problems. But I'm sitting there like every day telling them, you know, I'm seeing dead people, okay? Like, I'm seeing spirits and ghosts, and they're just like, well, this could be because of the schizophrenia. And I was like, okay, so I'm schizophrenic, all right? They keep telling me, and then they start labeling me other things. Like, they said, you have manic depressive disorder, and you have bipolar disorder. So it's just this long list of every fucking, like, I'm thinking, okay, I'm a fucking basket case. And I keep telling them, I'm like, I think I have psychic abilities. I think I really do. And they're like, yeah, okay. And I said, that room over there, down in the other corridor wings, I said, somebody's going to die in there. And I said, there's a ghost coming out. Well, and I said, someone died in this room over here. And I would start to tell them, you know, I said, you know, where people were hurt or where people, so I was like telling them stuff that I shouldn't have known. Like, I didn't have access to these ICU units and all these other corridors. And I said, there's like ghosts. I can see them walking out of the building, you know. And then one day, this lady, I don't know who she was, she didn't really introduce herself. She came into my room, and I told her, I was like, I think I have psychic abilities. And she just sat there and listened to me. And but at the same time, I think she also was a doctor who had psychic abilities, or she had some connection to it, because she exclusively would only come there for me, to talk to me specifically, because I was telling them information about the hospital that nobody else knew about. And like, people were dying in there, but anyways, so this lady would come to me, we would talk. But one day I asked her, I was like, are you a psychic medium? And she's like, I can't tell you that. And I was like, okay. And I said, do you have psychic abilities? And she's like, I can't tell those things to you. And it was just this one lady that I didn't know who she was. Really, I think her name was like Angela or something. I don't remember. But she would only come there specifically for me. So after one week, they let me out. And because I was fine, I was just like, because I didn't think I really needed to be there. I was having these, you know, these episodes, I guess, because I was physically sick. But anyways, so so I come back home and I'm living my life, and they do all this stuff. And I'm seeing my doctors, and I go to my doctor visits, and then there's this first doctor. Well, she was my therapist, and her name was Sandy. And I started talking about psychic things with her and the occult and all this stuff. And she's like, I can't talk about these things with you. I don't know what to say, and blah blah blah. Well, we saw each other for like a year or two, and anytime we had conversations about psychic abilities, she just kind of diverted them into like, my broken childhood and how my childhood sucked. But anyways, and then before she left, she was like, James, I'm going to set you up with this doctor. Now, at this time, during our visits, I came across something called self loss on the internet. And self loss is basically it's a spiritual uh, kind of like awakening. Like your psychic abilities are awakening, and it's called Shinbyung, and it's through Korean shamans. They go through this process called Shinbyung, and it's like a madness, and it doesn't resolve itself until you become one with your abilities, because your mind and your soul and your body cannot handle the amount of spiritual information that is being downloaded through you. So I get transferred to this new therapist, and I'm seeing him now. But one of his specialties are dealing with people with psychic abilities or something like that, because that was like his thing. I don't know. But we tend to talk a lot more about that stuff. And I said, you know what, Jeremy, I'm like, there, there is something called Shinbyung. And I said, I think that's my diagnosis. Now, this is a period of over, started when I was 19, and now I'm 42, going on 43. And so I'm like, I think I've been suffering through Shinbyung, this whole time. My abilities are beyond normal. I'm really coming into who I am spiritually as a person. That I never really liked church, anyways. So I was never really connected to that, because they'd always make me feel weird and say stuff like, I was a heretic, that I wasn't Christian enough or something like that. And I said, I think I'm going through Shinbyung. And I told him what it was. And then it seemed like he was opening up to this concept of Shinbyung, because I guess he read about it. It's spelled Sibyeong. And then he started saying, I think, James, that you're kind of shamanistic, that you're going through this period of shamanistic mysticism, or learning through spirituality. So, and he's like, it sounds like that's what you're suffering from. Now, I've never had a doctor say that to me, or a physician, to even acknowledge that I may have these abilities. Um, but it seems as though he had been more open, because I never mentioned it. I never said I was a psychic, or I was a shaman, or I was, a mystic or anything to him. I just said, I think I might be suffering from this Shinbyung. And so he's the one that came out and said, well, yeah, I think that might be it. You might be going through this, because, his focus had to deal with psychic anxieties and psychic whatever, abilities. So it was him who initiated basically that conversation, and it has developed over our meetings with each other. So those are how I view, because there is a madness to having these abilities, because they're beyond the realm of physical reality. You're seeing beyond something that is normal. So most people do not have these abilities, and whether they believe in a higher being or anything beyond this physical and tangible reality, that there is more that meets the eye. Because I would sit there and say to some of my doctors, there is a person here, they're coming through, it looks like your grandmother or your grandfather or your father, and I'd start describing them to them. So, and I think I freaked out some of the psychiatrists and therapists that I see. So, yeah, I think there is a madness that many people go through during their spiritual epiphanies or spiritual awakenings. There's a new enlightenment that comes to their psyche, and they download all this. I guess some people call it gnosis or knowledge of the spirit world, and they become conduits in which they can communicate these messages to the people. So that's kind of like my story about it. So yes, I've been in psychiatric wards. I don't know if I'll ever go back. They never keep me for a long time, extended time. They're always like, he seems all right. He just has these really weird abilities. They seem to say, they're like, he knows stuff that most people just are not supposed to know. So if you are going through some kind of spiritual awakening moment, or you think you're going through possession, or you think you're becoming a conduit unto the spirit world, you might want to look into this concept of Shinbyong and how madness is actually the key to spiritual awakening. So you might not have to go the route I have, but yeah, been in the psychiatric hospital twice, and they always let me out, and they're like, he's fine. He has some kind of weird abilities that we can't pinpoint, and they're not really sure what to do. So, anyway, I'll talk to you guys later, Manji, and you guys have a good day. Bye.